Did you all have a great time last night? Ah. All right. I'm Bell Yong Hong, the chair of the DNC, Asian American and Pacific Islander Caucus. I welcome you this morning to the second session of the Asian American and Pacific Islander Caucus of the Democratic National Convention. So thank you all very much for coming. And before we start, let me call this meeting to order. There we go. And I would like now to welcome Ms. Anling Vera to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please stand, those that you can.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. And now I would like to ask, Marissa Buchheit, who is a professional operatic soprano, to lead us in the national anthem. Please.
Please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, wasn't that wonderful? Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Now can you all see me? Maybe I can get on my tippy toes. Well, welcome. The last couple of days have been so exhilarating. It's been amazing, exhilarating, inspiring, awesome. I can't find enough words. So I'm going to ask all of you to just give me one word, just shout it out. Electric. Fiery. Joy. Come on. Awesome. Powerful. Shout it out. Hopeful. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was, I'm still like, I'm reeling with emotions, and I think a lot of us are. This has been probably the most exciting convention that I've had since I began coming to conventions, and this is my sixth. But anyway, so the first night, the tribute to our President Joe Biden was inspiring, and hearing once again his decision to pass the torch to his vice president and then to endorse her immediately was something that was so exemplary of what patriotism is all about. He put country above self. He put the best interest of all of us above his own interest. And we can't thank the president enough. So we love Joe. We love Joe. We love Joe. And listening to each and every one of our speakers, not only making the case for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as our next president and vice president, but after listening and being inspired and energized by our President Barack Obama last night and the First Lady, former First Lady Michelle Obama, everything seems to be so crystal clear that there really isn't an option but to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as our next president and vice president. But both, thank you, yes. Okay, I'm gonna put him down for a little bit and I'll bring him back up because I can't see you guys. I wanna put him over here. So let me just do a shout out. These were made by Erica Mortsugu's daughter by hand. Yes, this is why this is so special. And Erica, I want you to tell your daughter how special this is and how much we thank her. But that's why I wanted to put it all up here so that you all can can see it. But I also want to remind us, because both President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama warned us that it is not a given that we're going to win this election, and that's why we must fight to win. And so it is with renewed vigor and interest and energy and enthusiasm that we now set forth, especially after this convention, and set to work. We have to work hard to ensure that we win. This convention, we must leave this convention with that renewed energy and that renewed emphasis. And and before they fade, we must turn all of those words and those emotions into action. We must elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I can't repeat that enough. And that is why we must fight to win. At the last session, I framed the elements of winning an election as a three-legged stool, with the candidate at the center of that stool, but we have three legs, right? And the three legs are money, votes, and messaging. On Monday, you heard about messaging and also about going out to vote. You heard from the youth and you heard from leaders from the battleground states. Now we're going to be, this morning, we're going to be talking, turning our attention to the third leg, which is money. And that's actually an area that we Asian Americans don't often want to talk about, especially in conjunction with politics. So I'm going to so we have a panel together in a little bit that will talk to you about that specific aspect and how together we started to make this third leg of the stool a powerful tool for us to win. So clearly we have to start with a strong candidate, and as the last 2 days has clearly shown by all of the speakers that we have heard and by everything that we have seen in the last 4 weeks, we have indeed a phenomenal ticket. It is a ticket that I don't think I have ever seen, as strong a ticket that I have ever seen since I have been involved in politics. And this has been something that gives us a lot of hope and allows us to move forward. And yes, what we have witnessed is that joy has re-entered our political discourse. And while we uplift our candidates, we also have to uplift each other. And we must volunteer, and we must donate, and we should do it, and we should shout it out at the top of our lungs, the message that these are the candidates that will lead us to victory in November. And we must fight and commit to fight to win. So, as we, I'm going to be, forgive me a little bit, I'm still emotional from last night, so. As I said earlier, we focused yesterday, on Monday, on the youth, and we have 2 more panels today. Both of those panels will also highlight our strong belief that our young people, our young leaders are our future. And we're also going to be talking about the strategies to win. To do that, we have our indomitable leaders in both the campaign and the DNC. Nadia Belkin and Alex Wan will be talking to us about that. So today we will continue that discussion about the battleground strategies. And so they are going to be talking to us about that. And the battleground states of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Georgia. We will have a perspective from the campaign, and that perspective will tell us how to win, because victory does run through those states. I will also tell you that at the end of this caucus, as I did at the end of the last meeting on Monday, we will have a roll call of all of the elected officials, up and down the ballot, all the way from the municipal level to the state and to the federal level. I want everybody to see the depth and the strength of our pipeline, and that's our future, because that's what we're looking at. Today we're going to continue with the theme of Fight to Win, and the panel that is going to be addressing the money. I think we have our panelists here in a little bit. What is very unique about this particular panel is that I have asked the founders or the chairman or the head of each of the major national political action committees to come up and talk to us about how is it that they got this organization formed, and what is their particular focus, and what is the path forward, especially as we go into this very important campaign. I will make an aside that we Asian Americans have traditionally been and historically been very, very generous, but we haven't told people how generous we are. And more importantly, what we also very often do is we donate and we ask for a picture and then we walk away. No more. And this is what this panel is going to talk to you about. So, as we plan and execute a fight to win strategy, let's pay special attention to elements that are important to our community. Remember that as we plan, our messaging must include what is important to our community. Very often, in the messaging that campaigns and headquarters and the DNC very often give us very generic messaging. We must make sure that we adopt these messages so that it resonates with our community, because it is important that we get these people energized to come out to vote. Remember that we must also make sure that the messages are delivered to people in their language and make it culturally appropriate. Remember that political discourse must include us. Very often we hear messaging from all sources that would say blacks and Latinos, blacks and browns, but we're neither. We're not just blacks and browns. We're golden. We are Asians, and we must be included in that discourse, and we haven't been. So we must call it out, and we must make sure that, you come out and say, hey, what about me? What about people like me? Make sure that we're included. Remember that money matters, but also make sure that as we give the money, the people that we give it to know that we're giving it to them and that we have interests, not only for ourselves, not self-interest, but interest for our community. So I'm going to end quickly and tell you that on Thursday, I'm going to get extremely emotional because exactly 5 years ago, I whispered a prayer in Kamala Harris's ears when she came to visit me at the last in-person DNC meeting in San Francisco on August 22nd, 2019. And I told her that in my lifetime, I wanted to see an Asian American president. On Thursday, that prayer is going to come true. But not only is my personal dream going to come true, to see that Asian American as a president of the United States, but our collective dreams, our hope and desires for a better future for our country and community and family will also come true. And that is why we must fight to win. So with that, I thank you all very much. And I would like now to invite my Senator Macy Hirono to please come up and offer some words to us. Macy Hirono is not only the only AAPI senator from Hawaii, but she's also the senator for all of us AAPIs. And I have to tell you that she is a fighter, and she fights for all of us. Without further ado, Senator.
Aloha, everybody. Nice to see you all. And in fact, my friend, yesterday was your birthday. Our friend Belyong Hong, who has been a leader in the AA and HPI community for a long time. And so we wish you, well, some of us sang you happy birthday yesterday, but just know that she is just plugging away. So diversity hope is in the house. And this convention has been about multiracial diversity and speakers from AOC to Doug Enhoff. We are the big tent. This is the democracy convention, not just the Democratic convention, but democracy convention, because democracy is on the line this year. And in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, we have not only a diverse team, but a team that has empathy and that cares about all of us and that doesn't just care about themselves. And so the choices are so clear. And come on, you guys, you know, you're sitting there looking at me going like, where's the energy, you guys? Come on. Arif. That is more like it, because that is what it's going to take for us to win this election. And when we all heard the Obamas, I tell you, you know, I was watching, for example, the Supreme Court, this out-of-control Supreme Court majority, and they were deciding the affirmative action case, and I was really paying attention to what they were going to do. This is the affirmative action case that involved Harvard and North Carolina, I believe it was. And I pretty much knew what they were going to do, but when Michelle Obama said, we are not the recipients of the affirmative action of inherited wealth, we have a Supreme Court that said that is okay. But when we try to level the playing field and provide affirmative action for everybody else, they say that's unconstitutional. You know, it's like, what the heck? This is why we need Supreme Court reform, but that's a whole other topic and another caucus. This is the AANHPI caucus, the fastest growing minority group, racial group, I would say, in the country. And when we organize and when we vote, we are heard. And that's what we're doing. That's what we have to do in this race, this election. So with Kamala, I served with her for 4 years on the Judiciary Committee, and it was me, Cory Booker, and Kamala. The three of us sat next to each other. There was a lot of nonverbal communication among us. We would pass notes to each other, and Kamala framed us as the POCs on that committee, people of color. Yes. And somebody contacted my office and said, do they make them all sit together like that? It goes to show that on that Judiciary Committee, one of the most contentious, important committees, I would say, in the Senate, it took a long time for POCs to get on that committee, but I was so happy when Kamala and Cory came, because for a couple of years, I was it, you know? So I did use my voice, but it was so much fun, and I still remember, of course, of watching Kamala. I was always so delighted to see Kamala set up her questions, pin Bill Barr down, where he said, I'm struggling with the word suggest, when we were trying to talk about how important the independence of the Department of Justice was, and she asked him, has President Trump or anybody in the executive branch suggested that you investigate anybody? And there was this long pause, and he says, I'm struggling with the word suggest. See, that's Kamala. She would pin them down, and they would go, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to say? And then she moved on, because she says, well, obviously, like, how about hint? Can you understand hint? Okay, and then with Kavanaugh, that question, I am paraphrasing a little bit. When we talk about the freedom of choice, that's one of the many freedoms that Kamala fights for. Freedom of choice, freedom to vote, freedom to be safe from gun violence, but freedom of choice. And she asked Brett Kavanaugh, is there any law that forces a man to be limited in what he does with his body? And he sat there going, I don't really understand what you're talking about. Yes. I really enjoyed watching Kamala in action, but that is what she brings to this election. And when I heard President Biden say, we need to send the prosecutor to the White House, not the felon, I could relate. Couldn't you? Okay, so this is the team that remember during COVID, and they brought us out of that horrible pandemic and all of the attacks on AA and HPIs in our community. And Chuck Schumer came to me and said, Maisie, you have the anti-COVID-19, anti-hate crimes bill. We need to get that done. When I first introduced that bill in the Senate, I couldn't get a single Republican to sign on to that bill. But Chuck said, we have to get that bill done. And by the end of when we voted on that bill, and the last person to try to weaken that bill was Ted Cruz. He was on the floor of the Senate. He had an amendment. We fought that back. It was the first bipartisan bill that was enacted in that legislative session. And so it did exemplify that we can get things done, But the one person who didn't vote for that bill was Josh Hawley. There you go. So this is an election where all of us, and I'm glad we have a panel of AAPI and HPI leaders, we need to get all of our groups, and we have a number of groups that have come together with their agendas, but we need to come together. All of our AA and HPI groups need to come together and raise our voices in unison, because when we are united, we are heard. So, I was going to quote a Stoic, Epictetus. He said, if you want something good, get the good in yourself. And that is why when we heard Michelle Obama say, you know, we need to get it done, we need to do something. I also wanted to say, do something, don't just sit on the couches, which that is a reference to you know who. So you can take that. Don't just sit on the couches, do something. Make those phone calls, talk to your neighbors, because it is all about GOTV. Get out the vote. Our community is going to do our part to make a difference. We can be the winning difference in so many local and other elections, and we need each other, and Kamala and Tim need us. And by the way, Tim, I served with Kamala for 4 years, and I consider her my friend. Tim Walz and I got elected to the U.S. House in 2006. We are the majority-making class. We enabled Nancy Pelosi to become the first female speaker in the House. So, in our country. And so Nancy Pelosi is very fond of Tim Walz. And Tim was my personal choice, although, of course, I love Mark Kelly. I serve with him now. But Tim Walz, I want to quote Tim when he said, when it comes to reproductive choice, mind your own damn business. Couldn't have said it better myself. So thank each and every one of you, because we are each going to do something to help this team and to basically save democracy in our country. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you so much, Senator. Your words inspire all of us and get us going for the rest of this week and into the future. Yes. We have in the House Congressman Andy Kim. Soon to be Senator. Yes. Yes. Andy? Yes. So as he walks up here, I'll tell you a little bit about Andy. There's a lot that I want to talk about Andy, but one of the things why we must elect him as the next senator from New Jersey is, one, he will be the first Korean American in the Senate. Right?
That's right.
Actually, I believe that you will be the first Korean elected in the whole of Congress after you move over from the House, right?
Yeah.
Yes. He had to think.
Yeah, you're like.
Come on. But there's a lot that I want to talk to you about, but we have just a little time, so I want to highlight something that many of you probably have seen already. I want to recall that very awful, fateful day on January 6th. You may remember that one scene towards the end of the day, after all of that violence and all of that seditious activities by the other side. This congressman got on the floor, and I mean literally on the floor, to clean up the mess. And that is actually symbolic of his race. He's here to clean up the mess that the Republicans have left. Without further ado, Congressman.
Yeah, thank you, Belle. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Oh, no. Look, I'm really glad to be here with all of you. Thanks so much, Belle, for the kind introduction. And, you know, it's so important for us to be able to make sure that we have our presence here, that we have our voice here. And so I wanted to join with all of you to be able to do that. As the senator mentioned, you know, the fastest growing demographic in the country. It's the fastest growing demographic in New Jersey. But what I'll tell you is that when I first started running for Congress 6 years ago, they said, no, there's not going to be an Asian American winning your congressional district. You know, my congressional district was 85% white, less than 3% Asian. that voted for Trump, and they said there's no way that Asian American Democrat's going to be able to win this district. And they said, look, if you want to win a seat in Congress, why don't you move up to North Jersey where there are a lot more people that look like you? And that's what they said to me. But I said, look, like, I'm running in my district because it's my home. I'm not just shopping for a district I can win. I want to show that, these people that were telling me this, and sadly some of them were Democrats, that we had to show them that, do not judge me. Do not define what I am or am not capable of accomplishing simply because of the color of my skin and my last name. I am as American as anybody else. My story is not just an Asian American story, a Korean American story. It is fundamentally an American story. And I'm proud. And I'm proud that this 85% white district, less than 3% Asian, that voted for Trump twice, has now 3 times elected a Korean American Democrat to be their voice in Congress. Just a little less than a year ago, we had some challenges when it came to our senator in New Jersey, and I decided to step up to run for Senate in New Jersey. And look, I had a lot of people say, hey, look, you're a nice guy and all, but there's no way you're going to be able to win a statewide race. There's no way. They're like, that seat, if it's going to go to a minority, it's going to go to someone who's Hispanic. And I said, look, again, don't think that I am only a voice for Asian Americans. Don't just think that I can only speak to those issues. Do not box us in. I'm tired of that. I'm tired that that people are saying, oh, look, Asian Americans, we'll call on Andy when it's about something about anti-Asian hate. Yes, that's important. Yes, it's important about affirmative action and other issues that are out there. But look, what I'll say is we have something to say about everything. Not just about Asian American issues. We deserve a seat at the table for every single decision being made about this country because that's our position. I don't want Asian Americans just to be seen as some special interest group. They only call upon us when it's something directly related to us. So look, I have to say, I have been blown away by the energy in my home state. What we've seen over the last 11 months has been a really improbable story where I can now stand before you as the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate. But what I'll tell you is it's not just about the next 76 days, not that I'm counting each and every one of them. But I have, the hope that, it's not just about winning for winning's sake. It's about what we do with it. And that's something I ask each and every one of us. I know we're here to be fired up. We got to get Kamala Harris elected. We got to make sure we're doing everything we can. But let's remember that Election Day is the starting line, not the finish line. We have a lot of work to do, a lot of things that we have to deliver for our community, the Asian American community, but also to build the kind of coalition that we need to be able to show that we are going to be a friend to others as we want them to be friends to us. All of us working together to be able to build that, and that's what we're trying to do in New Jersey, and I want to work with you across this entire country to be able to get this done. And I'm really excited. I mean, this is the 50th anniversary of my parents immigrating to America from South Korea. This year, 50 years. After everything that they've gone through, all that they struggled through, their stories, and your stories in your own families. And I have to say, we're really excited in my family that we'll be able to celebrate our 50th anniversary by me becoming the next senator from New Jersey. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you, Andy. And best of luck. I know that I know we all want to see the next senator from New Jersey right here, Andy Kim. Thank you. And next I'm going to ask Amy, my treasurer, that she's part of my executive committee, to come up to introduce a whole series of very important speakers. And I'm going to leave it to Amy to start.
Good morning, Democrats. And in Hawaii, we say aloha. So aloha. Come
on, louder, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. You know, this convention is good practice for campaigning. How many people here are tired? How many are sleep deprived? How many are jet lagged? And how many have dredged up the energy to be here and will continue to this fight? Yes. You're about to hear from a series of our leaders in the Asian American, Native Hawaiian Pacific Island community. So I hope you will put on your campaign focus and energy and focus on their message. The first person I'd like to introduce is the Honorable Nira Nandan. Sorry. Oh, my typo, sorry. Nira currently serves as the Domestic Policy Advisor to President Biden. She was the Senior Advisor and Staff Secretary in the White House. She's from Bedford, Massachusetts. Graduated from UC in Los Angeles and Yale Law. My husband is Yale too. Thank you very much. Actually, I have more.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Are you fired up? Fired up? Fired up? Ready to go? Who saw Barack and Michelle Obama last night? Oh my God. And I have to say, what I was thrilled by was Michelle Obama's and Barack Obama's defense of diversity. My favorite line, maybe I had a few lines or some good lines about crowd size. But I have to say the line that really stays with me is the line around people attacking diversity who have the affirmative action of generational wealth. And that's why I think it is so vital that we are all here, because the beauty of the Democratic Party is that it represents all of us. I'm so proud to be in an administration with the highest number of Asian Americans, AA, NHBI people in history. And I am so proud to be in a White House with Vice President Kamala Harris, the first daughter of an Asian immigrant who will be President of the United States. And as Hillary said, when we look through those cracks, we'll see on the other side a Kamala Harris presidency that truly represents all of us, knows our experiences, brings them to the table, and then we'll have a government that truly understands us. Not with just a Mazie Hirono, not just with a new Senator Andy Kim, but with a president who will always make sure our voices are heard. And when our community is attacked, she will use her fiery passion and prosecutorial skill to fight back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nira. Let me bring up B.D. Wong next. Nani. I apologize. I think that Nani Coloretti is our next speaker. I apologize. I got a little bit out of order here.
Oh, give me 30 seconds. Yes. So So Nani Coloretti is currently the budget director of the Office of Management and Budget. Deputy director, I'm sorry. So Deputy Director Coloretti, also from Kipahulu, Maui. So, Oahu. I thought it was Maui. Okay, sorry. Aloha, come.
Aloha kakahiaka. Aloha. Good morning. How many of you stood in a line yesterday for 2 hours? I did. It was awesome. I met somebody on the subway last night as I was trying to make my way home who has been to 14 conventions. And they also stood in line for 2 hours, and they were happy to do it because they said that we are bringing the joy. We are bringing the joy. So I want to bring the joy to you today. I'm Nani Coloretti. I am here in my personal capacity. Belle Leong Hong has reminded me to tell you that. But I am someone with over 25 years in public service at the state, local, and federal levels. And so I grew up in Hawaii, on Oahu, for those of you who are tracking. I spent half my adult life in California and half in Maryland. So I'm trying to represent, all of the parts and pieces here. And I just want to say a couple quick things. First of all, Vice President Harris announced her plan for the economy last week, and I don't know if you were paying attention, but it is awesome. She is building on the progress that she has made as Vice President Harris as part of the Biden-Harris administration, and we are very, very excited about it. She's focused on affordability and on building the middle class, and that is really going to be significantly important, and for all of us to talk about that because it's going to make a difference for everyone. I want to just say something really personal about Kamala Harris, about Vice President Harris. I worked with her in San Francisco over 20 years ago when she wasn't even in elected office. She was a city attorney in San Francisco, and she basically had already been a champion for children and families. And we worked together on bringing a grant to San Francisco that took care of children who were the witnesses of abuse in their own homes. And that grant was the first of its kind program. It was actually an Office of Justice Programs program, Vanita. It was we were one of the first places in San Francisco to put that program, and actually it is now a national program. And that's the kind of work that Kamala does. She has a vision, she sees far into the future, and she fights for children and families. And she is going to fight for us. And I'll just say, we will also fight for her. And when we fight, we win. And so do not forget that. And thank you for being here. By the way, thank you for everybody doing the work, the hard work that you are doing on the ground. We are the margin of victory. So thank you for having me here today.
Well, you learn something every day. There are no titles here. So, I'd like to introduce Chantel Wong next, who has Honorable Chantel Wong, who has the rank of ambassador, so I can say Ambassador Wong as well. She's probably traveled the farthest. Came from Manila to join us this morning. So, please, Ambassador Wong, thank you very much.
Okay, it's going to be a little bit of a policy wonkish speech. So, but good morning, everybody. It's really an honor for me to be here, with everybody in our diversity and shared commitment to a better future, both here in the U.S., but for me personally, in our ancestral homelands at the moment. This morning, I want to reflect a little bit about the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration, especially in the Asia Pacific region, where I now call home. I'm from Manila, Mabuhay. So we're definitely reclaiming our presence in the region where American leadership has been really missing for decades, particularly the last administration, right? First, I want to recognize the vital role that AAPIs have been playing, including appointments like Ambassador Tai, as well as all the Labor Secretary there, yes, in various capacities. And I'm really privileged to serve alongside all of our AAPI colleagues in various capacities in state, defense, commerce, trade, and treasury. I know Vice President Harris's visit to the countries like Singapore, Vietnam, and Philippines have really strengthened the U.S. relationships and commitments to the region, and really provided deep work, economic work around security and diplomatic ties. So on an international stage, she has really championed American businesses, advocated for fair trade practices, and expanded market opportunities. Her commitment to an equitable and competitive global marketplace has really made her a key figure in administration's economic strategy. So in the Asia-Pacific region particularly, this leadership has really translated to increased collaboration on environmental sustainability and resilience. Vice President Harris has emphasized clean energy, protecting ecosystem, climate change, and whatnot. Maybe on a personal note, a little bit, because I'm running short on time, I want to reflect a little bit about Kamala Harris that I know and her impact on my life. I first came to know City Attorney Kamala Harris in San Francisco, where my parents call home. And when she ran for district attorney, I really was so inspired that I was on a GS-9 salary. So I donated meager amounts to her campaign. That was 22 years ago. On the intervening years, I've had a few opportunities to interact with her. When I finally retired from federal service, I was privileged enough to be the official photographer for the late Congressman John Lewis, crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge every year. The Senator Harris, would come to join in those pilgrimages along other members of Congress. I've taken a lot of beautiful photos and memorable images of Senator Harris during those journeys. And when I told her, when she came to Manila, the Philippines, I told her that I had printed these photos. I've given it to the second gentleman, because he was there earlier. And then she turned to him to complain that, where are the photos? And he glared at me and he said, how dare you get me in trouble with my wife? And so I brought them along in hopes to get them to her. But when she became vice president, and I know Shekhar knows this, I really wanted to be the first, the official photographer for the first Asian American, the first black, and the first woman vice president of the United States. I wanted to document her journey. But they told me that job was taken. So I had to settle for ambassador job. But I put together a really hard portfolio. Finally, I hope that maybe I'll get a chance to do that again. So I hope that, first of all, I want to say that being first is really important. I'm the first out lesbian, open lesbian U.S. ambassador in the history. But I want to quote what Vice President Kamala Harris says about her mother. Being first is really, really important, but let me not be the last. And so we really need to do that. Thank you.
Next up, we have a welcome from my hometown, 17th Congressional District, Rokana, a frequent guest of Bill Maher, and the voice of our progressive young people. Come on up, Ro. Woo!
Are we excited after last night? That was incredible. let me just thank Otto Lee. Otto is, I don't know where Otto went, but he is at every DNC. He's doing an incredible job as the supervisor in my district, and I have such admiration for him. And I have so much admiration for Belle. You know, I have known Belle for decades, and she is tireless. She is committed to this caucus. She was there when there were very few Asian Americans. Let's give her a round of applause for her service to this caucus and to our party. And a couple more shout outs. I see my excellent friend, Vanita Gupta. I think she should be the Attorney General in a Harris-Walz administration. She can't say it, I can. But she's just an incredible talent, and we're lucky to have her. And Deepak Raj, what he has done with impact has been absolutely incredible. Neera Tanden, of course, a brilliant policy mind. All the policies end up, some way she has a impact on them. And the last shout out to Deepa Sharma, who's been, as a young Indian American woman who's running for vice chair in California. And I'm behind her, and I hope others will support her. Look, I don't want to take up a lot of time. I want to tell a personal story about Vice President Harris, and then explain why this election is so important. When I was starting out, I was 27 years old, and I decided to run against a longtime Democratic incumbent, Tom Lantos, and he had supported the war in Iraq. And, when you run against an incumbent in your own party, everyone moves away from you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to have anything to do with you. And it's a very, very hard thing. And so there was only one person back then who was elected who was willing to meet with me, and that was District Attorney Kamala Harris. And I remember going into her office, and it shows how she's tough but also open, and waited for 15 minutes, and then I go into her office, and she says, "So, Ro, you're running?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Well, can I see some literature?" I said, "We don't have any literature. I'm running against the war." She said, "Let me give you some advice. You may want to come to these meetings with some literature with your platform." And I said, "Well, District Attorney Harris, I have not gotten the San Francisco Chronicle to be able to write a single article about my anti-war campaign." And she said, "Well, that's not right. I don't think you're going to necessarily win, but you deserve to be covered." And she made a phone call, and the next day, the San Francisco Chronicle wrote an article about my anti-war campaign. The reason I share that story is that Vice President Harris, when she's President Harris, doesn't just look out for herself. She knows the barriers she's had to break. She knows how tough it was. Those races were not easy for her to win district attorney in San Francisco. It was not easy for her to win attorney general in California. It was not easy for her to become the senator or to become vice president. She's had to break the barriers. And so she knows that we need to break barriers to have other people have a shot, and she's going to help other people do that like she did for me. Let me end with this point. J.D. Vance gave this whole speech at the Republican convention. Do you remember where he talked about this 7 generations that had this cemetery plot of land in eastern Kentucky? And he said, this is our homeland. It's not a country based on ideas. And then he said, Usha, who I know, who I like, his wife, is going to be buried on this plot of land. And I'm thinking, Usha Vance is Hindu American like me. Is she going to have a choice in the matter? Because, I would think she'd have some choice. But what upset me about that speech is that Vance was basically implying that the longer you could trace your heritage back, the amount of generations you could trace your heritage, that somehow defined what it means to be an American. Well, Benita or Neera or myself, our parents, we can't trace our heritage back 7 generations. Neither, by the way, can Vice President Harris. But we're just as American as someone who can trace their heritage back to the Mayflower. And it was not me who was saying that. It wasn't even Obama, though he's still the best, who was saying that. It was Abraham Lincoln who said that. In 1858, back then, you had to be able to trace your heritage back to the Revolutionary War to be American. You had to be able to say that you knew someone who fought in the Revolutionary War. And Lincoln said, well, how can you be a German American? How can you be a French American if you don't have a great-great-grandfather who was in the revolution. And so Lincoln said, every American who believes in the Constitution, who believes in the Declaration of Independence is flesh of the flesh, blood of the blood of the American founders. My friends, we are the party of Lincoln. When we elect Kamala Harris as President of the United States, we're going to show that this country is a multiracial democracy where it doesn't matter how long your lineage is, you can be American, everyone can be American and contribute. Let's go win in 2024. Let's elect Kamala Harris President of the United States.
You see us tap dancing up here as we change the order. I am delighted to introduce Vanita Gupta, a career civil rights attorney who was with the American Civil Liberties Union and has served a number of positions in government, including for Barack Obama.
Thanks all. So are we fired up? And are we ready to do something? I just loved the do something because as a civil rights lawyer, I'm this eternal optimist, but I also spend a lot of time agonizing and worried because that's what we do, because we know that if we don't fight, we're not going to win. And just hearing Michelle Obama yesterday repeat the focus for all of us over the next 78 days, 77 days, I think, is so vitally important. I am fired up. And as a lifelong civil rights attorney who has been proud to serve as President Obama's head of the Civil Rights Division and then most recently as Associate Attorney General, the first Asian American in top 3 leadership at the Justice Department, and we won't be the last. I know, and I don't take anything for granted. When we talk about a multiracial democracy, that is exactly what is at stake in this election. And when I headed up the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and Neera and I and many other leaders were doing everything we could to protect the multiracial democracy in the Trump administration, we worked with Senator Harris. We worked with her on voting rights legislation, on LGBTQ rights, on the Equality Act. We worked with her to protect our census. We worked with her to ensure that our courts, our judges would actually be impartial arbiters and not partisan hacks, people who would actually not overturn decades of precedent the way that we've seen recently in Dobbs, in the affirmative action case, in the Chevron case. There is too much at stake, and she has been a fighter for all of us from the day that she entered public service. We worked with her when she was vice president. We've been working with her. I was very proud to be able to chair the Justice Department's Reproductive Rights Task Force. And Vice President Harris has been our leader in pushing back and fighting back so that women in America, we have the ability to make decisions for our own selves about our body and our health care. And we are not going to let that go. She has traveled the country, meeting with people all over, physicians, patients, women all over, activists, men who are joining this, and we know what is at stake. And so I just want to say in closing, when John Lewis, the mighty John Lewis, said democracy is not a state, it is an act. And when Michelle Obama says do something, we know we've got to knock on all of our doors. We have to talk to our family members, make sure that they are registered to vote, that they are going to show up to vote. I'm going to be working with an amazing team of lawyers to try to do everything we can to ensure a safe, fair, and free election. We should not take for granted that there aren't going to be a lot of shenanigans played with people's right to vote and the ability to have their vote counted, and it will be on all of us showing up at county commissioner meetings, making sure our secretaries of state understand that they cannot take away the right to vote, which has been so hard fought and hard achieved. And we're going to need to donate. We're going to need to sign up as poll workers and volunteer. Elections in our democracy, we are the ones to protect it. So I just want to say I am so glad to be here in this room, to be able to fight for our multiracial democracy. It is going to take all of us. Keep going.
Thank you, Vanita. I now want to bring up my brother, Dilawar Saeed. I could spend a whole hour introducing Dilawar, but he and I got to know each other quite a number of years ago, back to 2006. We joined forces to basically do things together as Asian American and Pacific Islander as a group, as opposed to each diverse group separately, so that together we can have stronger forces. May I present to you the Honorable Dalawa Saeed.
Thank you so much, Belle, and thank you, Otto, and everyone, and it's great to be here. Speaking of origins, today is the day 33 years ago I came to America from Pakistan as a student. And I must tell you, I never imagined I'll be standing here at this stage speaking to AAPI leaders from across the country at a convention. 3 decades later, a few of us got together in a boba tea shop, Shekhar, you remember, in LA, and we endorsed President Biden, January of 2020, and I answered the call to service. Now, I think many of you know, my journey has been a hard one. Not just the recent years, but also the aftermath of 9/11. And people often ask me why you persisted. I persisted because our backgrounds, our ethnicities, our race, our faith should never, ever be a factor in what you get to do in this country of ours. And that's why I persisted. And I persisted because representation matters. You've heard it from my colleagues, it matters. We bring our lived experiences as Asian Americans, as entrepreneurs, as immigrants, as parents, and all of that helps us inform policy that better reflects the aspirations of our diverse country. Let me share with you a couple of words about the Vice President. I met the Vice President in San Francisco in 2009, early 2009. She was preparing to launch her campaign for Attorney General of California. And I was one of her first organizers in the tech community in Silicon Valley. And we went on to win, and I was advising her on tech policy. Just most recently, she asked me to join her when she visited Detroit, Michigan. I had a chance to spend some time with her on Air Force Two, which is very, very cool. And soon she'll have Air Force One. And watching her speak in Detroit was absolutely electric. But here's a conversation that I had with her recently during Ramadan in the White House that really, really showed her heart. And it reminded me why I got behind her all those years ago. I don't need to tell you that this Ramadan was a very difficult time for the Muslim community. Seeing images of death and destruction every day tore at all of us. And a few Muslim appointees had gotten together in the White House with the president and the vice president to open our fast. The way the VP came to us and spoke to us about the importance of serving and our work at this time, I would never forget. Her warmth, her compassion, and her humility is one that I cannot wait to see when she is our next president. So we are a margin of victory. We know there's a community, but it's going to take a lot of work. And someone who's been organizing, let me just remind you, there are a lot of folks that we still have to engage in our communities. So it will take all of our work to make sure we turn out the vote and make sure that the Vice President and Governor Walz is our next President and Vice President of the United States. So thank you for having me, and thank you, Belle.
Next, I want to take a point of personal privilege to introduce my Lieutenant Governor, the pride of Maryland, Hirono Miller. Would you please come up? She's the first Asian American Lieutenant Governor in Maryland, and her administration appointed 6 cabinet members.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Hirono Miller, and I come from the great state of Maryland. But first, I want to recognize this incredible leadership here at DNC. Can we just start with the chair, Belle Leong Hong, right? Now, Now, what we say about Belle in the state of Maryland, she's just like our state, small but mighty and powerful, right? That's who she is. And I also want to thank Amy and Keith and Otto for all your leadership as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for every one of you that is here today. And yes, are we excited about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Yes, absolutely. Now, everybody's sharing a story about Kamala Harris, and I want to share with you mine. And it just happened last week. President Biden and Vice President Harris came to visit Maryland, and they talked about how they are reducing the prescription drugs prices and all, right? So we were there at a rally, and it was wonderful. I had an opportunity to stand in line and take a photo with the president and the vice president. And any of you that's been in those photo lines, you know they give you 5 seconds, right? You go in there, you smile, and you leave, right? So in this case, I went up and I said to the president, I said, Mr. President, today is my mom's birthday. And he looks at me and he goes, what's your mom's cell number? And I look back at him and I'm like, I have no idea because it's in my cell and I don't have my cell with me. You took it away from me. I didn't memorize my mom's number. Oh my God, shame on me, right? So I go rushing back. He tells his staff, why don't you get the LG's mom's number? But I go find my phone and I'm desperately, like, I pick up the phone. I'm calling my mom in the back of the room and she's not picking up the phone. Right? I'm like, oh my God, this is a horrible moment that she wouldn't pick up the phone. Call my daughter, who happens to be visiting. She always picks up on the first ring. She doesn't pick up either, right? By the 5th ring, I'm about to hang up, and in a breathless, way, she picks up. She goes, yes, Mommy, what do you want? I go, get Amama. That's what we call grandma in India, right? And I go, where is she? And she goes, she's taking a shower. It's in the middle of the day. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. My mom never does this. And I go get Amama out of the shower right now. I go, but do not tell her that the President of the United States wants to wish her happy birthday. So she goes over there. Literally, my mom is in the tub. And she's like, Amama, somebody wants to talk to you. And my mom's all confused. She gets on the phone and she's like, hello? And so I'm rushing back to where the picture was taken. And Secret Service is saying, ma'am, you're not allowed to go back. You can't go back. I said, no, you don't understand. The president and the vice president said they want to talk to my mom. So they let me go back in. President Biden picks up the phone and he goes, hello, Hema, this is Joe Biden, and I want to wish you a happy birthday. Right? But it gets better. So my mom, then he puts her on the speaker. My mom, you could imagine, is a total hot mess at this point, right? She starts talking to him about reincarnation on the phone. She's like, oh, Mr. President, you and I must have known each other in our last life. That is why you're calling me. And I'm like, oh my God, what is she saying to the president right now? And then Kamala gets on the phone and she's like, Auntie, we just want to say it is so wonderful to see your daughter and how successful she's been. And my mom responds by saying, you are much, much better. And I'm like, is this happening or what? And Vice President Harris looks at me and she's like, I understand completely what you're going through. She knows our Asian parents, right? They want to make sure we keep elevating ourselves as much as we can. But I'm just sharing that story, and then it gets better. President Biden and Vice President Harris sing happy birthday to my mom, everybody there. These are the type of individuals the two of them are. This is the type of individual Vice President Harris is. It's about how she makes you feel. It's the compassion, the empathy, the engagement of seeing you as an individual, not just an object walking right through and taking a photo with her. This is who we're voting for, folks. This is what is the promise of America, right? A woman who is South Asian and Jamaican that is about to break some glass ceilings. That's who we're voting for. And I just want to say to every one of you, thank you for everything that you do in our great state, in the great states that you come from and our nation. And I just want to recognize a few people that have been battling this fight for all of us so they can elevate us, including Deepak Raj of Impact, Neera Tandon, let's give it up for her. Yes, she's been fighting the good fight. And Shekar Narasimham, thank you so much. And to all of you, thank you. Let's go make sure we get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz elected, okay?
May I now have the pleasure of bringing out B.D. Wong. Many of you know him as the Tony Award winner and Dream, the Drama Desk, and a lot of other awards that I don't think I have enough time to mention, but you also have seen him in many, many diverse roles. But more than that, he is an extremely active supporter of all of our courses and all our API community. Would you please come on up? Yes. And he's my cousin.
I think we are cousins, but I'm going to call you Auntie Belle. Hi. Well, I can't compete with that story. I can't compete. But it did remind me very briefly of a story that about my mom and Barack Obama. My mom and I were invited to the White House for the state dinner in 2013, and my mom got in her head that she wanted to bring Barack Obama terra chips that my uncle had, Hawaiian terra chips that my uncle had made. She said, let's bring Barack these chips. And I said, Mother, you can't bring the president food. They'll never let you anywhere near the president with food. Anyway, my mother and I had an incredible trip to the White House one time in 2013, and that reminded me of that. Thank you very much. I am so really humbled and proud and amazed to be here with you all. The people in this room are doing all the good work and all the hard work, and I'm just me. And but I'm happy to be here. I was invited as a what's called an honored guest of the campaign, and I took the opportunity to have what I thought would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I was not wrong. Well, I'm never wrong, but that's and I was not wrong. I mean, you all know. I mean, I went to bed last night thinking, what could I ever say to this group? What kind of remarks could I ever make here today that would compare to the majesty and the scope and the vision and the humor and the tenacity and all the incredible work that we're halfway through, people. We're only halfway through this incredible experience. And the inspiration that I have personally gotten from the speakers and from people that I revere in my life, you know, these iconic people, is incredible. And we must use this whole time together to be extremely galvanized. I am also here as a representative of the candidate as a presidential surrogate, and I have toured this country going to visit volunteers all around in the swing states. And I'm here to tell you that this race is incredibly close. We were in last Saturday in North Hills near Pittsburgh, where Biden won in 2020 by an average of 5 votes per precinct. And this is the general gist of what my experience has been as a surrogate, going to these really narrow margin places and watching these incredible volunteers more and more galvanized as the campaign has reached gained momentum. But nevertheless, they are dedicated and they are incredibly blah, 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 blah. They are just incredibly ready and willing and ready to do this work. Now, I am here also to say we are an incredibly interesting and influential community in this election. We are, of course, it's always been said, the fastest growing group, and we are also poised to be very influential in this election, particularly in the swing states where there are Asian American communities, Vegas and Virginia, I mean not Vegas, Nevada and Virginia in particular. And whatever it is that you're doing, we can, do something, and when we fight, we win. These mantras we must really take them to heart. I want to say one last thing that is really important to me. It's a small thing. It's not mentioned very often. And that is the incredible, it's based, first of all, we are, in order to have a caucus at the DNC, right, you have to represent at least 2% of the constituency of the membership, right? And so we collectively, in all of our incredible nationalities and different cultures, come together. We are the Asian American community, AANHPI community, and there are often kind of debates about how we feel diluted in our cultures and are being lumped together. But it is in these moments when we are the most powerful, when we are able to affect change through solidarity and through our numbers, and that we must embrace that. And we always must find our way to be individuals and to celebrate our individual cultures while we are doing that. Having said that, there's also something incredible happening, and that is that we have and by the way, the dream is not really happening on Thursday, Auntie Belle. The dream is happening in November, and we are making sure of that. And Thursday, to me, is the poetic representation of that dream happening, right? But that is the work that we need to do. But when that dream happens, it is the first woman, the first African American, the first South Asian, Asian American president, as we all know, as has been said many, many times. She is the representative, Vice President Harris is the representative of so many groups that have been underrepresented in our lives, that it is really hard to continue to list them all. And I feel like, well, let me just tell you where I'm coming from. At my son's bar mitzvah, my son is a multiracial kid. And at my son's bar mitzvah, I told him in front of everybody, you are not half of anything, you are all of everything. And so it is astonishing to me that we characterize her easily as the first black president, the first woman president. A lot of times the South Asian part, the Asian American part, gets left off the list. And we really need to own it, and we need to be really proud of it, and we need to perpetuate it and remind people that is one of the major, that is an incredible thing. And I think in our kind of non-confrontational Asian Americanness, we kind of like let it slide a little bit, but let's really lean into it. We're gonna have a freaking Asian American president. No less or no more than she is an African American president. No less or no more. So let's make sure we celebrate that, and we let people know how we celebrate that, and we don't do that halfway. I thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate this whole thing of they've been reconfiguring the order of the speakers here all day. Like it's like a Chinese wedding here. It's like crazy. And so I'm just, then they've been apologetic about changing the order, and I'm just so thankful to be here. I don't care at all. It's just wonderful. Auntie Belle, you're doing incredible work. Love you all. Please do something.
I'm going to ask the senior women panel to come up, but in the meantime, allow me to introduce my senator-to-be, Angela Alsobrook. Very quick. She will say some very, very quick remarks. Because we've got
Is it still? Oh, it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. And I hope that the joy of last night is still with you. I want to thank Chair Leon Hong for inviting me this morning, and thank her for all of her leadership. Thank all of you all as well. I also want to say to Senator Lamb, good morning, and thank him. You know, we are in a joyous time where Kamala Harris is bringing us together and reintroducing joy into our country. And by extension, also reintroducing the concept. I love what was just said a moment ago about us not being half of anything, but all of everything. Isn't that true of all of us? And it is the very concept of inclusion and love and togetherness that really makes us who we are. And so in this moment, I am running for U.S. Senate in the state of Maryland. I'm so grateful to be able to represent what will become the 51st vote. We know that having the majority in the Senate is going to be especially important to be able to get our agenda across. We know that whoever has the majority controls the agenda for our country. Maryland is in play. We're very solidly one of the states that Mitch McConnell has selected, believing that they can turn. So I thank you all for having me. I ask you so much for your support. And you know what? Let's go win. November 5th, we're going to be successful and move our country forward. Thank you.
Next, I'm incredibly proud to introduce a panel of senior women, and they will, senior in rank. I'm going to ask Erica Moritsugu to be the lead in this, and I'm going to let her introduce the fireside chat. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Woohoo! Woo!
behind the office says stuff like that, and then we have to find a way to live with it. So I wanted to share that. But I also wanted to talk about joy, because I get a lot of joy out of what I do. I get a lot of joy out of the people around me. I think that's why we wanted to do this as a panel. I also just wanted to say I get a lot of joy out of looking at the audience and seeing Mayor Wu. And so many of the other people who are here in this room. very clearly what the other guy is going to do, right? We know the beautiful thing about this election is not only everything that we're doing here this week and what we're seeing and the sense of being at a rock concert, it's also that actually oftentimes we don't know what the other guy is going to do, right? We have someone who's like the incumbent or the incumbent party, and then we have another candidate, and we're not sure. This time we are extremely sure. We know exactly what he's going to do because he's done it before, right? And so we know that the unleashing of daily hate and vitriol and the rollbacks of our civil rights, the numerous things that in his personal life and professional that he will do to harm women is we've seen it. We've seen it done already, and we can't have that happen again. So I want to say it like this because one of the things that everybody's talked about already is the idea of the DEI, right? Like and the thing that people always it's always an attack, right? Like why do we want a DEI candidate? Because of the false choice they make between if you care about real representation and diversity, then you can't possibly care about people who are qualified, right? The beautiful thing is everyone in this room knows that that is a false distinction. That there's no such thing as that, right? And whenever we say we want real diversity, equity, and inclusion, that is how you throw open the doors to people who are wildly qualified but would otherwise be overlooked and give them a real shot. And once we get that shot, look out, because we always make it count. And so our chance to do this is incredible. But let me just say about the other guy, he's had the job before. So let's just imagine for a moment, if a woman of color had done that job the way he did it, would anybody be talking about giving him a second chance? Like if you do a job for 4 years and you absolutely suck at it and you know you're not getting better, do you ever get a second chance? Do we ever get a second chance? If you come in and leave the job with fewer jobs in the country than you had when you came in, does anybody give that person a second chance to do your job? No. If you face a global crisis, a pandemic, and you are deer in the headlights, you don't know what to do about it, and so you deny it's real, does anybody give that person a second chance? If a woman of color ever have a second chance in that situation? If everyone who worked closely with you, your cabinet, your vice president, everyone else, were warning the people about what a danger you are, would we ever get a second chance? It doesn't work that way, right? So there's so much at stake in terms of who's done what both Kamala will do, but also what the other guy has done, that we know we can't go back. No, I was just going to take this out of the stand so that you could actually just drop it. Thank you for coming to the panel. We are
Thank you to this amazing ladies. They are, I can't say their titles, but they're the highest ranking women in our administration, and we're so delighted that we had the opportunity to talk to them. Next, I'd like to bring up Mik Pulli. Very, very quick introduction. Mik is an award-winning actor, author, and activist. He's a longtime advocate for the Asian American and Pacific Islander LGBTQIA communities, plus community. He's a co-founder of the anti-bullying nonprofit Act to Change organization, and a very, very dear friend. Please come on up, Mik. Mik, thank you. Probably this is the quickest introduction you've ever gotten.
Oh my gosh, no. Thank you. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Belle, for inviting me to be a part of this. I have been so inspired. You all, Ambassador Tai, if you're still here, this is my first convention as well. How many people are here for the first time? I am exhausted. I am so energized. Listen, I'm gonna keep this brief, and and hopefully really personal. As an actor, as an author, as an activist, I think of myself as a storyteller. And I know that having our stories in the world fosters belonging. It cements the idea that our story is the American story. I have been immersed in anti-bullying work for Asian American and Pacific Islander youth for nearly a decade now. I can tell you firsthand that the Trump administration's anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, anti-Asian American and Pacific Islander rhetoric and policies, they told a story too. That story was that we do not belong, that we are other. And what did we see because of that? We saw a huge uprise in violence, bullying, and hate towards our communities. We are not going back to that. I am now the author of 2 novels for young readers, The Best at It and Nikhil Out Loud. So I am literally putting our stories into the world. Both of my novels feature South Asian American LGBTQ teens as lead characters. These are the books that I never had as a kid when I was growing up, and I needed so desperately. And my greatest joy is that both of these books are now part of school curriculums all across this country. Thank you, thank you. But they have also been banned in many parts of this country simply for featuring LGBTQ AAPI characters as lead characters. Recently, a school board in Pennsylvania voted 9-0 to cancel my visit to a school in their district. Thank you. That meeting was recorded. It caught them saying, "He's a homosexual. We don't want his lifestyle in our school." And this is verbatim. He talks about anti-bullying, empathy, and inclusion, and that's what's concerning. You can imagine where these board members lay politically. One of them was Moms for Liberty. But here's my takeaway for all of you. When that community heard these words, 1,000 people showed up to the next school board meeting, and after 6 emotional hours, they forced that board to reverse its decision. It was a narrow margin of victory, 5-4, but they did it. These were some of the same people who had voted this school board into place in the first place, but when they were an informed electorate, they made their voices heard. So here's my takeaway. We are the margin of victory in this election. We can inform our friends and our family about what is at stake in this election, not only for the presidency, but at the state and local level as well. Vice President Harris has spoken out against the banning of books. She believes our stories belong in schools. She is fighting for women's rights, for AAPI rights, for LGBTQ rights. A Harris-Walz presidency ensures that our story continues to be the American story. Thank you all for letting me be here today.
Thank you all, and thank you all for your patience and your endurance. Next, I would like to bring up Irene Natividad and the panel on money. Irene is I shouldn't have to read her bio, but quickly, is a recognized leader for women in the United States and globally, chair of the Globe Women Research and Education Institute. Most importantly, she's my friend. There you go. Bye. Bye. We need to go. Let you do your thing.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Wonderful program.
Thank you.
When we talk money, the room empties. Please, everybody, take your seat while they are making themselves comfortable at the table. Let me just say, this is my 10th convention. My first one was in 1984 which was the first time that the Asia Pacific Caucus had a presence at the convention that we fought for. Okay? Geraldine Ferraro said hello to 30 of us who formed the caucus at that time, for which I served as vice chair. This now has grown thanks to Mabel. Not all of you are in this room, but for those of you who are in this room, thank you. You are the ones who make the votes happen, and you are the ones who make the money happen. But today, I want to introduce to you and to hear from the 3 organized and probably the largest political action committees that have made our financial presence happen. And you say, well, why is that important? Because money is the mother's milk of politics. And if you think you're going to run for office or get the vote out or print messages without money, then you're not in the right place. So, let me begin. From the farthest right, I have Albert Shin, who is the chairman of Asian American Action Fund, which is now over 30 years old. I mean, people don't realize that. 30 years old. He is from Texas, and he also, in his other life, does business development for Verizon. Next to him, somebody many of you also probably know well, Shekhar. We only say Shekhar. Forget the rest. He is the founder and chairman of Impact. And he has worked... Sorry, hungover. Shekhar is the head of the multi-layered Victory Fund that many of you have heard from. He is CEO of his own company. He heads up an investment fund, and his biggest passion is affordable housing, to which he has dedicated himself. And then next to him is Deepak Raj, who is the founder and chair of Impact. Yes, he also heads up this other council. It is the Center for Economic Policy at Columbia University, which he and his wife founded together. So please welcome this group. First, would you welcome them, please? And each in turn will tell you briefly, gentlemen, say what is unique about each of your political action committees, and we'll begin with Al at the end.
Thank you, everybody, for your gracious introduction. Yeah, Albert Shen, I'm the AAA Fund. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of how tax work, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We are a lobbyist regulation PAC, federal PAC, and our main focus is actually getting new Asian Americans into Congress. So that, and as AOC said the other day, we have to bring Congress to everything about that. So we're endorsing candidates, especially Asian Americans to get in. We did endorse Clarence Lamb there earlier in his primary race, but also Evan Lowe. We can't forget about Evan, Dave Min, Jared Tran, and Zachem. So these are the leaders that we want to make sure that get into Congress and actually be a part of Congress and support the White House. That is our key strategy for working Congress. So we have board members throughout the country. A lot of us are from the corporate side, some are entrepreneurs, and some are actually from the community leaders across the Hawaii, Washington State, Ohio, Missouri, New York, Ohio, and Georgia. Myself.
Thank you, Eileen. And you know what's wonderful about this whole gathering is not only can't you go down a corridor and not see somebody that looks like you, but you can't see somebody you don't know. And so if your hand hurts, if you have to give it enough hugs, here you go. There's the reason for the hugs. I'm Shekhar with the AAPI Victory Fund. We are actually, as Eileen said, really complex in the sense we're a super PAC, which means that we not everybody else was voting at 65. That's called a 16-point gap for all us mathematicians, as Andrew Yang would say. That gap has narrowed to 6 points in 2020 because of the great organizing work of a guy named Donald Trump, who the fact is that he woke up our community to the threat, he woke up our community to hate, he woke up our community to the fact that government makes a difference in their lives, and it can make a difference in your children and grandchildren's lives. We are spending our energy this cycle specifically working for the Harris-Walz ticket and against Donald Trump in Michigan and Georgia. And our focuses are therefore, if you look at the overall AAPI vote in the 7 states that matter, the battleground states, it's about 1.75 million. So it's about 1.43 million that's already registered and roughly 400,000 that is eligible to vote that is not registered. We think we can increase our numbers because they've already grown nationally by 1.5 million in the states that matter. We can actually increase our vote by 250,000 from 2020 to 24. What does that mean? You should know Joe Biden won 6 of those 7 states by a margin of 280,000. You should know he won 3 of those states, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia, by a grand total of 45,000 states. We have more South Asians alone that represent a margin of victory. We have enough AAPIs that can elect people up and down the ballot and retain the Senate. Bottom line, I like to say, and it's very blunt, we are no longer the margin of victory. We are the reason for victory. Thank you, Shekhar. I co-founded IMPACT about the same time, like a year or two after your organization. And the obvious reason was that there was a gap between, my team is telling me to have a microphone for the popular is coming in the way. The reason was there was a gap in the success our community had versus the representation we had in politics. And how do we close that gap? So actually I went around and I talked to many, many people, and many people you've heard from today. There were very early advisors and guides, for us. Neera Tandon, I went to her office in 2016 and said, hey Neera, should we do this? And she's not here anymore. And one of the key people, by the way, who encouraged us to do this was the current Vice President. I met her in 2015, 2016, and said that we are planning to do this. She said, what the heck are you waiting for? Go do it. It's an incredible opportunity for us to organize and to move forward and to get adequate representation in the United States. So, I want to thank them, Rokhana, Radha Krishnamurthy. There are so many people who've been so instrumental in guiding us and taking the mission forward. And the results are there, right? I kind of wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, we've accomplished a lot. Early stages have accomplished a lot. We've gone from 1 congressman from the Indian American community to 4, 5, and because of the really great work by our team, Neil and Chintan, really great work from our team, we should have hopefully at least 1 more, if not 2 more, Congress members in 2024. So, we are getting there, but we are about the proportionate size of our population, if you look at the U.S., but heck, we ought to punch above our weight, right? We really should have 20, so I think that we have a long runway ahead. And by the way, the bench for us is the House, the various state houses, Senates, and legislature. There, when we started the organization, we had about 8. Now we are at 50, and we should be in the hundreds. So incredible progress, over the years. So one thing I just want to say to our community is that if you are politically inclined, go out there, stand for election, and we'll have you back. So it is second thing we wanted to do, and we've built a different muscle, to do it, is to how to get the vote out at the local level and how to have very targeted advertising for our community. And this has made a huge difference, in local elections. We helped Suhas Subramaniam win the primary in Virginia 10. We have just helped Amit Shah in the primary in Arizona 1. These are in very, very tight races. In one of these races, the opponent jumped, I don't know how many millions of dollars. He stepped up to the plate, raised money, and really helped the Suhas and Amit. So we are now really, build this muscle on how to really get involved, just like Shekhar said, on how to win elections, and that's what we're trying to do. And lastly, listen, when I founded Impact, it was not even in the dream to imagine that we may have a person from our community to be running for the presidency of the United States of America. So I think it is just absolutely incredible to see what has happened, and it's a tremendous occasion for the community, and we are all in on it.
Great, great. Okay, when in 1984, we had 3 members of Congress, Patsy Mink, Bob Matsui, and Norm Mineta. And now they're 22. And these 3 organizations had a lot to do with making those numbers happen. So we've matured politically as a margin of victory. We hate that term, but it's true. New York Times even cited it, and we have matured financially. 3 of you, we have 2.5 months left, as Michelle said last night. So, what do you think we should be doing? Not theoretically, but immediately, as established PACs. Go ahead, Albert.
In the world of tax and money, what we need is money.
Yes.
In our observation, and Irene too is on our board, our founder, Paul Chow, is sitting way back there, so I don't want him to wait on. I got us into this. But it is the blood of what makes politics work, and it is the fuel that drives the winners of what we need to do. And what we need is people really to open up their pocketbooks. A lot of it is focused upon the White House, but as we said, we can't forget Congress, because without Congress, we cannot get the appointments we need, we cannot get the confirmations of like Julie Sue or Catherine Tyne through the Senate. Those are such critical races, and we're specifically trying to work the innards of DC, supporting Jackie Rosen, supporting Maria Cantwell, all these other API candidates, well, who all have large API populations in their states and their districts. So money is really, whether it's $5, $10, we each have different compliance limits, but that is what we're trying to educate people on. So we need people to educate on what PACs are, but really is the money side. And we have seen, I see things within the DC circuit, just the amount of money that it takes to get something to happen, especially when it comes to appointments for legislation and policy, or even funding for all the programs that support us, that our appointees sit in all these agencies so they can distribute that money to districts that are impacting our community. So without that money, like I said, $5, $10, $20, with super PACs have much different limits. Our limits is $5,000 tax. So that is really what we need people to really get understanding is. Open your pocket, tell your friends, whether it's $5, $1, it makes a big difference on every level in terms of helping us get key congressional members and get their support.
Thanks, Al.
Sure. Well, there's 2 things you can do. You can donate money, you election by a lot. And it isn't just to win by a lot for the sake of winning by a lot, it's because that's when we can turn to the other side and repudiate their lies and their poison and say, we won the damn election, now it's time to govern and move to that state as quickly as possible and not be in this middle state of wars. But our job is to mobilize, organize, get the vote out from our communities. If we do that successfully, we've done our part in making America greater.
Okay. Well, last word, Deepak.
Last word. Obviously, money is critical, as we all know. And as Sheikh Agha said, organization, getting the vote out is a very, very important piece to do. From Impact's perspective, we are really focused on 5 swing states, getting the vote out in 5 swing states, and have very targeted advertising for our community to get the vote out. Very simple, straightforward strategy for us to be effective. And I think that, as we talked about before already, the margin to really get this done and to have Kamala Harris elected to be the President of the United States is very, very important. Whatever money that we collect for doing this, and this is a donation to Impact, to leverage this muscle that we have. Another PAC, a super PAC, will give us 3 to 1. So if we generate $3 million, we will get $10 million, from the super PAC. Now, I'm not sure about what numbers and all that, but
You can.
we can. Okay, all right. So there we go. So we are, well on our way to doing that. And so I think if you really want to leverage, what we've got in a very direct fashion, to leverage the team that we have at Impact and all the stuff that we have, it's a worthwhile investment. Yes, the ROE, just understand return on investment. If you invest in an Asian American vote, you've got a 68% chance that vote will be a Democratic vote. And 20% of the time it's a brand new vote. So if you invest once and get that vote as a Democratic vote, you have got a voter that's going to vote 70% of the time Democratic thereafter. It's a very high ROE.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding us about that. Now, all of you, you've been given instructions. Yes, we are wrapping up. You can see that, right? But let us remember, all of you already give. You give your time, you give some money, we have to give some more. Because the investment that Shekhar was talking about, did you see the 3 top women who are here? We want more of them. And that happens because of our political weight and our financial weight. We need to make it visible. Our community that Bell has developed over the years. Thank you very much.
Nothing.
Thank you so much.
Let's stop this damn margin of Thank you so much. That's right. That's right.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. At this time, I'd like to bring up Roger Lau, Alex Wong, Nadia Belkins, Aro. Yeah. We were going to do a slight shift just now. I was going to do a panel, but we're running a little bit over time, so I'm going to, at this point, I'd like to introduce Roger Lau. I could take a whole day to introducing him, but let me just tell you that he is the Deputy Executive Director for the DNC. That means he's the number 2 person in the entire Democratic National Committee, the highest ranking Asian American, the highest ranking Asian American on the staff of the DNC. But the reason I wanted to make that point is that representation matters, absolutely matters. I have been working, being a volunteer, super volunteer of the DNC since 2001, when I was first appointed. And ever since I became a chair, one of the things that I ask every time that we have a change in administration, if you will, is three things. I want people, I want money, and I want communications, money for our media. And throughout the years, the answers I get, yes, Belle, sure. And I start jumping up and down, and I get some, but not a whole lot. It isn't until this man came along that he heard us, because he knows us. He knows our issues. And most importantly, I want to share with you, I really want to do a brag on him. Ever since he came on board, we had more than 35 Asian American on the staff. I think it's actually increased.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's increased. And what he does is he does it, it's intentionally, but it is in such a natural way that says, but of course, it's talents. But guess what? We're represented. It is this man, and I love him.
Love you too.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to be brief because I know we're over time, but just a shout out to Ma Bell. She is the highest ranking Asian American in the DNC, and all the work that we do, we're standing on your shoulders, right? So thank you, Belle. But as Belle has said, representation matters, and it matters for a variety of reasons. Belle, I'm proud to let you know that number is way more than 35. Yeah. So between the DNC, Wilmington, HFP, in the states, and the convention, I think we have over 120 or so Asian Americans across every single department, up and down, department heads, advanced scheduling, policy, communications, everywhere. Also, shout out to Vanessa from our communications team, who's filming right now over at the DNC.
The first time I came to the DNC, we had one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But that matters. That matters not only because, number one, we have really talented people in our community that want to contribute to the DNC and the Democratic cause, but having people who have that lens in a variety of positions helps us become better. Helps us make sure we're serving the community better and the party better. There are two people who are the tip of the spear that I want to make sure that we shout out. Alex Wan is our API director of the DNC. And Nadia is leading our effort overall with HFP. She came on with Biden. She created an organization, nonprofit, not nonprofit, what is that, Super PAC or 501c4, Asian Power Network, right? Yeah. And from the organization, headed up and decided to come over to the campaign, and we could not be more proud. And the reason why all that matters, the work that we do with our community, it can't just be incidental, right? It has to be intentional. And every single day, they make sure every single department within the campaign does this work intentionally. So I want to make sure that you guys, the best thing you could do to be helpful, take their calls. When they text you, return them. They're the ones who are leading the way, and I'm following too. So thank you for all you do.
I know a lot of the electors had already had to leave because of other commitments, but I wanted intentionally to do a roll call of all of the elected elected members. And I'm going to bring my Senator, Clarence Lamb from Maryland, and Representative Longtran from Georgia. Please, take it away.
All right, we're going to roll call the elected officials and ask them to come up to the front because we would not have an AAPI event without photos. So we're going to go through this very quickly. We have, and you've heard from some of these folks, the Honorable Chantel Wong, the Honorable Nani Coloretti, the Honorable Raj Punjabi. We also have Assembly Member Grace Lee from the state of New York. We have Mike Yin, the Minority Floor Leader from Wyoming. We have Mr. Otto Lee, Santa Clara County Supervisor. Iwan Chu, New York State Senator. Jay Chaudhuri, the North Carolina State Senator. Jerome Lee, Standing Committee of Massachusetts. Tyler Dos Santos Tam, Honolulu City Council. Cal Lee from the Green Bay School Board in Wisconsin. And I'll hand it over to Representative Long Tran.
All right. We've got Kian Jung from the Board of Directors of Portland Community College. Lisa Cow from County Legislator, Dutchess County. Michelle Wu, Mayor of Boston. Sarah Freeman, Executive Committee of EC Mayors. Enka Mosca, Assemblywoman of Nevada. Zui Nguyen, Assemblyman of Nevada. Kevin Thomas, State Senator of Nevada. Cham Nguyen, State Representative of Massachusetts. Kenny Nguyen, Council Member of Broomfield, Colorado. Tui Dow Jensen, School Board, Brentwood, California. Khadijah Gaz, Congressional District 1, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ty Penserga, Mayor of Boynton, Florida. And Frank Aurelio Yokoyama, Council Member of Cerritos, California. Please come up. If there's anyone that we missed that's elected, please come up, please join us.
We also have Luce Bay, representative of New Hampshire.
And